Prince William has just announced Meghan Markle's permanent removal from all royal ties. Titles stripped, privileges gone, no return permitted. The shocking statement left Prince Harry blindsided, and the monarchy forever changed in its most decisive move since the Sussex split. Prince William steps forward. Meghan's royal future ends. At precisely 10:04 a.m., under grey skies at Kensington Palace, Prince William stepped in front of a prepared lectern, cameras already flashing. There were no other family members by his side. No aides, no visual distractions. Just a man carrying the weight of a decision that would echo through royal history. With his voice low but deliberate, William confirmed what had long been speculated but never publicly acknowledged. Meghan Markle's royal ties had been permanently and irreversibly severed. The message was short but final. Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, would no longer be recognized by any HRH title, honorary patronage, or royal status. She would not return for funerals, weddings, trooping the colour, or even private Windsor gatherings. Her name was not danced around, it was stated clearly, without euphemism. This was not a diplomatic adjustment. It was a royal exile, in title, in role, and in access. The announcement came after what insiders described as months of internal debate, including late-night meetings between the King, Princess Anne, and senior constitutional advisors. But the final decision had been reached, and it was William, not Charles, who would speak it into the public realm. That choice mattered. Harry, according to royal sources, had been informed only minutes before the announcement via protocol. Not a phone call, not a brother's voice. Those close to him say he was blindsided, having assumed that even if discussions were happening behind the scenes, they would be addressed through private channels, not a global broadcast. One royal correspondent noted, "This wasn't just administrative. This was deeply personal." William chose to carry this out himself. It marked a significant shift in William's public persona. No longer just the steady heir, now the enforcer of boundaries. The line between family and institution had been drawn, and William made sure everyone knew where it stood. Behind the solemn exterior was a man emotionally pulled, but resolved. As one palace aide described it, he didn't want to do this, but he knew it had to be him. The world had watched years of tension unfold, interviews, books, documentaries, but this was not a reply. It was a conclusion. Meghan's future, in royal terms, was no longer up for debate. It had been officially shut. And in doing so, William didn't just make a statement about Meghan. He made a statement about the future of the crown, and who it chooses to carry with it. The emergency press call that shook Kensington Palace. Reporters received the alert with no details, just 2 hours' notice and one location: Kensington Palace's main press courtyard. The message was simple. A statement from His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, will be delivered in person. No questions, no follow-ups. In royal terms, that meant only one thing: non-negotiable news. Within an hour, speculation ignited. Was the king unwell? Had an abdication been triggered? A foreign diplomatic crisis? A sudden death? But among the royal press pack, all eyes began turning toward Meghan Markle. Her absence from recent events had been glaring. Royal social channels had gone silent for days, a classic signal of internal unrest. When William appeared, wearing a sharply cut black suit, no medals, no royal insignia, the tone of the moment shifted from mystery to foreboding. He walked in alone. No staff, no folders. The only objects in view: a single statement card, a microphone, and the crown insignia backdrop. And then he spoke, not in anger, not in sorrow, in finality. William's voice held the control of someone who had rehearsed pain into precision. He did not address Harry. He did not invoke the word family. Instead, he delivered the statement as a servant of the crown, not a brother. The impact was immediate. The room went still as he announced Meghan's permanent disconnection from the royal family. Not a suspension, not a distancing, a severance. Reporters described the moment as historic, chilling, and clinical. One foreign correspondent remarked, "We didn't know what we were waiting for, but it wasn't that." Inside sources later confirmed that the press call had been approved in a private session with King Charles and constitutional advisers just 48 hours prior. There had been no leaks, no warning to the Sussexes. That silence was intentional. The palace wanted the world to understand that this was not reactive. It was structural. A judgment from the top, carried out by the heir, timed for maximum clarity. In that single delivery, the crown reasserted its boundaries. And the man who did it was no longer just a future king. He was the one who said what no one else would. William's statement, a final royal severance. What set William's announcement apart was not just the words, but the absence of comfort. He didn't thank Meghan for her past service. He didn't offer hope for reconciliation. He didn't soften the blow with metaphors or empty warmth. Instead, he confirmed the royal family's final and united judgment. Meghan Markle would be excluded from all royal events, funerals, coronations, weddings, national commemorations, even private Windsor family gatherings. There would be no reinstatement, no future appeals, no reviews. The statement used the word permanent. That word had never been used before, not even during the height of the Sussex departure negotiations in 2020. Meghan's name was mentioned explicitly, rather than through titles. That alone signaled a complete withdrawal of formal recognition. It wasn't just the Duchess of Sussex being removed, it was Meghan herself. William's hands were steady, but his voice revealed flickers of internal cost. Observers noted his tone, measured but clearly emotional. One journalist described the delivery as the hardest speech he'll ever give until he becomes king. For many, this moment confirmed what had long been speculated, that behind the palace walls, the final line had been crossed. According to high-level aides, the decision had been weeks in the making. It followed detailed legal reviews, private family debates, and a final round of counsel with the King, Princess Anne, and the Lord Chamberlain. But it was William who was chosen to deliver it, not for distance, but for credibility. He had, by public standards, never directly attacked Harry or Meghan. His silence had given him the authority to speak now, not with emotion, but with consequence. No further explanation was provided. William ended the statement by saying, "We speak today not out of anger, but out of duty. The integrity of the crown must be preserved. That preservation requires finality." He nodded once, stepped back from the podium, and left. No handshakes, no eye contact, no turning back. The monarchy had spoken, and the sentence was permanent. Harry's reaction. Private shock. Public silence. The fallout from William's statement wasn't just constitutional, it was personal. And for Prince Harry, it arrived with the force of betrayal. Inside sources confirmed that Harry was given no advance consultation, no call, no briefing, just a formal notice, relayed via royal protocol, informing him that a public statement was being made regarding titles and royal engagement. By the time he read the content in full, the world had already heard it. His reaction, according to a close associate, was absolute disbelief, then a kind of stunned quiet. Attempts to reach William by phone and secure message reportedly went unanswered. Palace aides later clarified that this was not an oversight. It was a strategic decision. William had deliberately chosen to exclude Harry from the final process, fearing any attempt to delay, renegotiate, or emotionally interfere with what he saw as a duty to the institution. For Harry, it was the ultimate severing, not just of Meghan from the family, but of himself from the decision-making process. His spokesperson released no official comment, a silence interpreted by most media outlets as shock control. In California, where Harry and Meghan currently reside, paparazzi presence doubled. Security was quietly reinforced. Meghan was not seen in public, and no social media activity followed. That silence spoke louder than any statement. According to a source close to the Sussex camp, Meghan was blindsided. She had expected changes, perhaps legal clarifications, limitations, but not total exile, not the complete removal of every remaining tie to the crown. Behind the scenes, there was concern not only for personal humiliation, but for potential legal implications, particularly in areas tied to brand agreements, public appearances, and security obligations. The palace, however, had anticipated this. The legal team at Buckingham Palace had prepared months earlier for the severance, ensuring no room for contestation within UK jurisdiction. Back in the UK, one senior royal source said simply, "We informed Harry as a courtesy, not as a collaborator." The public saw a wall of silence, but behind it was the collapse of brotherhood and the quiet solidification of a royal truth. When the crown speaks, family must fall in line or fall away. Why the royal family acted now. This was not a rash decision. The severing of Meghan's royal identity was years in the making, delayed by internal conflict, public sensitivity, and international politics. But it had always been building. Insiders confirmed that the final judgment followed a 2-year review, triggered not by public scandal, but by institutional risk assessments conducted inside Buckingham Palace. The review focused on one question: was Meghan's ongoing public activity compatible with the standards and obligations of the monarchy, even in absence? The answer was clear. It was not. Key events accelerated the process. The Oprah Winfrey interview, Harry's memoir Spare, and the Netflix docuseries all painted a version of royal life that directly contradicted palace records and broke long-standing confidentiality expectations. More recently, new commercial projects tied to the Sussexes reportedly referenced royal life, palace interiors, and historical narratives that had not been approved or fact-checked. This, for senior aides, was the tipping point. The royal family saw its brand stability and constitutional neutrality under threat, not from politics, but from commodification. Quietly, a task force of legal advisors, senior courtiers, and constitutional experts was formed. Their purpose? To determine if Meghan had violated non-disclosure parameters, informal engagement agreements, or ethical standards related to royal presentation. It was not about punishing rebellion. It was about preserving precedent. The team reported back with 3 key findings. Meghan continued to use royal identity indirectly for brand legitimacy. Past breaches, while not illegal, had created perceptual damage. The line between private citizen and royal affiliate had blurred beyond repair. With that, the palace concluded that a formal separation was not only appropriate, it was necessary. One senior official reportedly said to King Charles, "We either wait for the next wave of damage, or we draw the line now." The line was drawn, and William was chosen to deliver it. The king's hand behind William's words. Though William's voice carried the message, the weight behind it was unmistakably the king's. King Charles III, often described as cautious and deliberative, had been silent on Meghan's status for years. But that silence, insiders now say, was never passive. It was strategic containment. According to palace sources, Charles signed the final authorization 2 weeks before William's appearance. He had personally reviewed the legal findings, discussed it at length with Camilla, Princess Anne, and the Lord Chamberlain, and confirmed that the statement would carry full institutional authority. Behind closed doors, Charles reportedly told aides, "This is not about vengeance. This is about survival." For months, the king had resisted public confrontation, hoping that distance would resolve the tension. But as new media projects surfaced and the Sussex name became increasingly commercialized, Charles concluded that quiet distance was no longer effective. It was Princess Anne who reportedly encouraged direct action. Known for her blunt realism, she made the case that continued ambiguity would erode public trust and leave the monarchy vulnerable to brand dilution and constitutional confusion. Camilla supported the move too, reportedly noting in one internal discussion, "If we don't clarify the line, someone else will cross it for us." And so, the decision was made. The crown would speak, and only William could deliver the message without appearing petty, emotional, or retaliatory. His credibility, built through silence and restraint, would give the decision its legitimacy. The statement was reviewed by Charles personally. No edits were made. His only instruction, according to aides, was, "Make it clear, make it final, and make sure it's done with dignity." In that moment, father and son were aligned, not just as royals, but as protectors of the institution. And once William stepped to the microphone, he was no longer just the heir. He became the voice of royal law, the line where blood ends and duty begins. Meghan's past resurfaces and fuels the final decision. By the time the decision to sever Meghan's royal ties reached final approval, it was no longer just about the present. It was about the pattern. Palace aides, many of whom had served under both Queen Elizabeth II and King Charles, were quietly instructed to review archived concerns that had, until now, remained sealed. What they found solidified the royal family's move from caution to conclusion. Among the most pressing concerns were long-standing allegations of staff mistreatment, initially raised during Meghan's time at Kensington Palace. At the time, the palace chose to handle the claims discreetly. Internal HR reports were created, but the findings were buried under the weight of institutional protection and media strategy. Now, those same reports were resurrected. Confidential memos referenced multiple aides who had resigned suddenly, citing emotional distress and a toxic environment. While the language had once been softened, the pattern had not gone unnoticed. A palace insider said, "It was no longer about isolated moments. It was about sustained behavior that clashed with the principles of the crown." In parallel, aides reviewed Meghan's pre-royal public life, her acting roles, blog content, and social connections, looking not to shame her past, but to assess whether her public identity had ever aligned with royal standards. Certain photo shoots and former affiliations raised concern, not because of scandal, but because of optics. To the monarchy, optics aren't opinion, they're currency. Her past wasn't the problem. It was how her past and present consistently resisted integration with royal expectation. Meghan's instincts remained rooted in Hollywood agency, visibility, platform, control. The institution required the opposite: restraint, symbolism, sacrifice. This growing incompatibility had once been tolerated under the hope of modernization. Now it was deemed unmanageable. Multiple royals, Anne, Camilla, even Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, reportedly agreed that the line had been crossed repeatedly. It was Princess Anne, again, who delivered the sharpest assessment during final discussions. The role changes you, or you change the role. If the latter happens, you're no longer fit to hold it. That clarity cut through years of hesitation. In the final days before William's public statement, all material, formal and informal, was assessed for legal risk. Nothing disqualifying emerged, but what did emerge was a firm conclusion. Meghan had never truly embraced the institution, and the institution could no longer carry her image as part of its legacy. The exile was not punitive. It was structural survival. The children left behind. Archie and Lilibet's fate. If the decision to exile Meghan was cold, the decision to exclude Archie and Lilibet was heartbreaking. In the same announcement, Prince William confirmed that neither child would receive royal titles, HRH styling, or inclusion in the official line of succession, the titles they had inherited by birthright, as grandchildren of a reigning monarch, would not be recognized in any formal capacity. This move is unprecedented. Never before in modern British royal history has a monarch's grandchild been intentionally disqualified from the lineage. Sources close to the family described this as the most agonizing part of the severance. William was reportedly torn. Privately, he is said to have told aides, "The children did nothing wrong, but their future ties the crown to a fight we didn't choose." The palace's legal and security advisors pushed hard for clarity. Granting titles to Archie and Lilibet would expose the monarchy to claims of access, protection, and legal obligation, both now and in the future. It would also entangle the crown in the decisions, media ventures, and controversies of the Sussex household. To them, this was not about punishing children. It was about protecting the institution from years of potential vulnerability. The official position is that Archie and Lilibet will live as private citizens, with no royal funding, no security entitlements, and no ceremonial responsibilities. They are still family, but not institutionally recognized. The palace also cited the need for clear generational boundaries. Under King Charles III, the family is being slimmed down, not just in cost, but in symbolism. Titles are no longer hereditary guarantees, they are earned affiliations. One royal advisor stated, "The titles are not toys, they are constitutional tools, and tools must serve the system, not sentiment." In California, the news reportedly devastated Meghan, who has long argued that the children deserved recognition. But from the palace's perspective, recognition requires trust, and there was no longer trust in how that association would be managed. William delivered the message with restraint, avoiding emotion. But the weight of it was evident. He was not just addressing the public, he was redrawing a bloodline. The children remain part of the family in name, but in royal terms, they have been written out of the future. The world reacts: outrage, support, and uncertainty. Within minutes of William's statement, media across the globe shifted into overdrive. Headlines poured in from London, New York, Sydney, and Johannesburg, each grappling with the magnitude of what had just unfolded. "Meghan cut off permanently," read the BBC. "Final goodbye to the Duchess," declared the Times. Hashtag Royal Reckoning trends worldwide, shouted social media feeds. Public response was fractured, as expected, and as the palace had prepared for. Some praised the move as necessary, courageous, and long overdue. Royal loyalists and former staffers defended the decision, pointing to years of escalating tension, brand confusion, and protocol breaches. Others, especially across social media, saw it as cruel, classist, and unforgivable. Prominent U.S. commentators framed the severance as punishment for speaking out, a consequence of challenging an outdated institution. Legal analysts quickly weighed in. In the UK, the decision is constitutionally sound. The sovereign retains full control over titles and royal privileges. But questions arose internationally. Could Meghan challenge the revocation in court? Could the children still claim their lineage under Commonwealth frameworks? No lawsuits have been filed, but PR fallout is ongoing. Celebrity allies remained silent, fueling rumors of distance. Major networks replayed the footage of William's statement on loop, framing it as the most significant royal rupture since the abdication of Edward VIII. Inside the palace, no further clarification was issued. No interviews granted. As one aide put it, "We spoke once, we won't speak twice." The decision had been delivered, with no room left to walk it back, and as the world reacted, the family braced itself for the aftershocks of a truth finally spoken aloud. What comes next? A royal family, reforged by fire. With Meghan's royal identity severed, titles removed, and the children excluded, the House of Windsor stands in uncharted territory. The monarchy did not fall. It did not retreat. But it has changed, irrevocably. Prince William's announcement now marks the most decisive act of royal enforcement since the abdication crisis of 1936. It was not driven by romance, but by restraint. Not by rebellion, but by institutional preservation. For William, the cost was heavy, but those close to him say he has no regrets. A longtime friend noted, "He didn't want this moment, but he understood that leading the crown means protecting it, even from family." Within the palace, the tone has shifted from caution to clarity. There is no anticipation of reversal. No second statement is expected. Meghan's chapter with the monarchy is closed, and the institution has chosen not to dwell on it. Prince Harry, now existing between two worlds, remains in emotional limbo. While he retains his bloodline, his standing within the firm has gone quiet. A source close to the king said, "Harry is still a son, but not a representative, not a decision-maker." Meghan, meanwhile, faces a new reality. No longer tethered by name, title, or privilege to the crown, her platform must now stand on its own. No ceremonial duties, no official ties, no royal safety net. Whether this empowers her or isolates her remains to be seen. What's clear is this: the monarchy is entering a new phase, one forged not through celebration, but through fire. King Charles continues to lead with deliberate quiet, allowing William's voice to carry the institutional message. Anne, Camilla, and senior courtiers are focused on stabilization. No further provocations will be acknowledged. The firm is closing ranks, not to protect itself from criticism, but to restore internal alignment. Public opinion is divided, but measurable. Support for William among UK citizens aged 35 and under has increased. Trust in the monarchy's decision-making has risen modestly, while public sympathy for Meghan, once dominant, now fluctuates based on geography and media framing. For the crown, this isn't about image, it's about legacy. What William did was not performative. It was constitutional. His role shifted from heir to executor of institutional will, someone who understands that monarchy survives not through perfection, but through decisive clarity when tested. There will be no red carpet reconciliation, no staged photo ops, no teary reunions for headlines. The story has moved past that. Now the monarchy turns its focus inward, to the next generation, to service to Pamir, and to repairing public trust, not with gestures, but with consistency. This is not the end of royal conflict, but it may be the beginning of a firmer monarchy, stripped of pretense and recalibrated for a new era. And for William, the future king, it was a single act that made one thing painfully clear. Sometimes, leadership means losing people you love to protect the institution you serve. The crown has spoken. Meghan is out. Permanently. For Harry, the silence now says everything. There's no turning back.